Now Comic Hour with your hosts, Andrew Garner.
And Chris Ramos.
Tonight we cover Batman, The Court of Owls saga.
That was very epic.
Yes. Batman, in this run, he figures out that Gotham is not the city that it appears to be. Just like any other Batman run, but there's more.
But it's his city.
That is his city.
Yes.
Like the opening line is, what is Gotham? Gotham is. And then there's like a bunch of adjectives. Is it Batman? Is it the police? Is it the people? Is it different aspects? Is it the family? Is it the citizens who live there? But really, it's something completely different.
Batman thinks he knows, but nobody knows.
Right.
Yeah. So we're going back to the New 52. We've been reading a lot of New 52 lately.
Exactly.
DC
it was bad.
Comics.
It's bad. It's notes. It was good.
Well, it's because they're collecting it now.
Yes.
Like they're like, hey, why don't we remember this? Even though we're forgetting it, why don't we remember it? And we're going to reprint all these.
Right.
And
so this was my Batman comic and my writer and illustrator that got me into comics. That I was like around this time, like Secret Invasion was coming out by Marvel, and then this was coming out. So those were some of the first two books that kind of gravitated towards me, and I'm like, whoa, there's so much more backstory than what's in the movies or what was coming out at the time.
So the New 52 worked on you.
It did.
Oh my gosh.
It wasn't that like said, oh, the New 52. No, it just looked like a cool book
It was. So when the New 52 happened, DC Comics said, we're going to just take all of our characters and we're just going to reboot them and redo them and start at zero and just like reintroduce them to everyone out there, because maybe they were looking ahead and said, geez, a lot of our big core fans are getting older. We need to get in a new group of people.
Sure. Continuity was all over the place again.
Yeah, because you had 60 years of comics, and it's like not that you've told every story possible, but you're pretty close.
Yeah.
So they just started thinking, well, for anyone that asks the question, the big question that everyone always asks is, I want to read some Batman. Where do I start?
Yep.
And that's what they wanted to solve with the New 52, and they had a ton of creators and ton of writers at the time that were just ready to jump in.
Yeah,
I mean, just really talented.
Yeah,
people.
take the next step up.
Yeah, and Scott Snyder was one of them. So
dun, dun, dun.
Here we are. Batman, The Court of Owls was Scott Snyder's first
Batman
New 52 Batman story for everybody. So if you wanted to read Batman, you started here, and it's an awesome place to start.
Now, Ramos, what edition did you read?
Like originally?
No. Well, we could start there, but what edition do you have in front of you for the fun folks at home?
I'm trying to think. I may have read this when the New 52 first put it out, but I don't have the singles edition. So maybe I read it in some sort of trade or something like that. But I read this one for our review in the absolute Batman Court of Owls, because I like oversized art. I love the absolute editions. DC Comics has kind of slowed down on those. There's not many of them out.
Yeah, there may be 1-2 come out a year now.
But what they do is they take a run of stories. Like this is Batman 1 through 11.
Yes.
From 2011 and 2012. So 10 years ago. And then they oversize it, they bind it, and they make a nice hardcover, and they put a ribbon in there and all the stuff we'd love to talk about, and really make it a nice edition, glossy pages and everything.
Mm-hmm. I read them in the trade paperbacks that were hardcovers, so it just collected like 7 issues at a time, and so that was a cool experience as well. But what the difference was reading the smaller hardcovers compared to Ramos's Absolute Edition is that 1 and 2 are collected separately, and then there's a crossover book as well that encapsulates more of the Batman family coming into these issues, and it's kind of like a between the panels, what was going on when this happened. We'll mention that later, but that was a cool reading experience as well.
Yeah, the funny thing about New 52 when it came out, even though they said we're going to take our characters and reintroduce them, they came out with like a lot of books.
Yeah.
I mean, like everyone had a book. So it was pretty easy for them to kind of jump into this storyline, because Robin was already here, and just a lot of the Bat family, and just like the extended Bat family, and I don't know. It was just a good time for this to come out, and it was one of the standout, like, best out of New 52 stories
Yeah.
that came out. So, of course, we're getting ready for the new Batman movie coming out.
With Robert Pattinson.
Yes.
Dun, dun, dun. From the pages of Twilight.
Yes.
From the screens of Twilight comes Robert
That was so long
Pattinson.
ago. I'm sure he's like, no, stop it. Leave my Twilight days out
But
of this.
if you've seen that trailer and seen the way Matt Reeves portrays, comes up with this concept of who the Batman is,
Yeah,
it's pretty
it's legit.
astounding. It's like a 180 of his career and just bringing some more relevancy back to Batman.
Which is funny because, I mean, this is probably like the 10th movie or something, or maybe
Sure.
even more.
And
than
Batman
that,
is
but-
like the biggest highest selling comic right now, or has always been for a while.
Yes, that's true. Actually, they would judge all other comics based on Batman. So they would say, your comic is brand new on the market and it sold 30% of the Batman mark. So every month, literally every
This is the
month,
bar.
they would
How
say,
close did you get to the bar?
here's the top is Batman. He sold the most comics this month, and here's
Sure.
yours.
Right.
And that's what they did. They judged every comic on how many Batman sold, and then you had like a part of that.
Mhm.
Like,
Right.
So he's the one who's
larger than
judged.
life. That's
Yes.
for sure.
Well, the comic starts out here actually as Batman is doing what he does best, kicking butt, being Batman. He's at Arkham and just sort of
Yeah, we get this
Putting everyone
like
back away.
the villains are breaking out. It's a jailbreak. Da da da.
cool way to introduce all the villains, though.
Sure. And it's fine. You know, we get to kind of see this, and we get to actually, I think, embrace what Greg Capullo can do right off the bat.
Yeah, his art jumps right out. I mean, really, really, really.
Like you
good
see his
jump.
interpretation of, or first interpretation of, like the Joker, and it was
Mhm.
like scary looking. He's got
Well-
kind of what most people know him as now, as like
and
that scary
Two-Face
version.
is all wacky too. I mean,
Right.
he really does good at the really fine little detail, kind of really, really fine line,
Yeah,
tearing and
it's
ripping.
edgy,
It's good.
but it's not so much. It's not super out of control. He really hones it in, but also it gives this like creepiness to it, and a sense of place.
Mhm. So once Batman kind of finishes putting everyone back in their cells, then you get an introduction to Jim Gordon. You get an introduction to the Batcave. You get an introduction to just him being, I guess, being Bruce Wayne. And, they do a
Kind of setting what the status quo is.
yeah, I mean, everyone, whenever they redo Batman, and they'll do this for the new Batman movie too, everyone wants to see, what does the Batcave look like? What does the cars look like?
Right. Yep.
What does
That's
this
it.
get?
Yep.
Like they want to know.
That's a great spread. They got like all the cars in
Yeah.
the circle, and he's like working.
So it's like,
on it.
here's the Batcave. It's got the T-Rex in there. It's got the giant penny. It's got, I mean, everything that you
right.
would associate to Batman's history. They have it here. So, which is funny, that New 52 kind of rebuilt a lot of characters' backgrounds. But then when it starts with Batman, it's just like assuming all of these pieces have always happened.
Sure.
So it's like,
And Damien is established in
Yep.
this line. Yep. And Tim Drake is the Red Robin, I believe, or something like that. There's
think
so many
that's
different
right.
ideas. I think
Yeah.
that's the one. And then Dick,
Dick
Grayson's
Grayson,
Nightwing.
still Nightwing, of course.
Yep.
And
He's
that's
a
his Bat family, Batman and his 3 boys.
Yeah. Right. And so Bruce Wayne wants to he is revealing this new plan to innovate Gotham, to bring it to a 21st century, to fix up the place a bit, add some new state-of-the-art designs, and make like the railway better, and different buildings he wants to add on to and revitalize a bit. So this whole revitalization project.
Yeah, I mean, he's being really upfront about like Wayne money is going to rebuild Gotham, and Wayne money is going to be the reason why these neighborhoods look better. They've done that in the past, but I
Yeah.
think for them just to throw that right out there, that Bruce Wayne is going to be, I guess, like in the public eye really a lot. That kind of gets him in trouble later on, but in the
Right.
story. So that's
Because
why.
Gotham is so old, it's got so much history into it. He's lived there all his life, but he's always looking ahead, as Batman would, and saying,
Yes.
"How can we improve the
He's
place? How can how can I make this my city while sharing all my wealth and knowledge and power and technology with the rest of the city and making it a better place?
So of course the night comes and Batman jumps out and he's like right into the Detective Gordon, and he's just trying to make sure that he's pretty much all over the city at the same time. And he finds a message where there's been a murder. There's a message written on the wall, and it says, "Bruce Wayne will die tomorrow."
Dun, dun, dun.
Batman's like, "How do they know who I am?"
Right. And you get this really, it's very, there's something going on. Scott Snyder really does build this like great mystery element to it.
Yeah, I mean, what
It
he wrote
starts
before
very practical
this,
and goes very much like takes a scope and goes into it. Like, how much can I explore this?
yeah, he builds it slow enough, but he also, I think,
It's
he's
a very,
aware that
it's definitely a
kinda-
slow burn.
yeah,
Yeah.
and he's like, "Well, I'm still writing a comic, so I got to move it along." But,
Right.
but yeah, before New 52, the first thing he ever wrote for DC was Batman Black Mirror, which is a really good read. I think it's the same spooky, edgy kind of Batman, but not. The story focuses on Jim Gordon's son,
Ooh.
and he's got lots of issues, and he's sort of the hidden problem child of Jim Gordon.
Okay.
But no, it is a spooky read, and it's really, really, really good. So Batman Black Mirror, highly recommended. Go pick it up.
Yeah. Where it all started. So yeah, Batman's, trying to figure out this mystery, and it all stems through this message on the wall, and they definitely go into what the Wayne Towers stand for. And I don't know how much we knew about the Wayne Tower prior to this issue, but you definitely get the sense that
I don't know if it's ever really jumped up before.
Sure, so that might have been like a Scott Snyder creation, but it's definitely, it looks over the city and he breaks it down to like, here are the different gargoyles and where like they're pointing to and how they guard the city. Kind of definitely builds up this mythology of what this tower stood for. And
yeah, Bruce Wayne is talking about just like how many generations of Waynes have been in Gotham City.
yeah,
And you get this idea that they focus so much on Bruce Wayne and his parents, but I mean the Waynes have been there for long, way before. Yeah. And they helped build the city literally from just nothing. So he has made it, of course, his mission to know as much about Gotham City as he can. So he also knows everything about every building and every nook and every gargoyle and every hook and the way he can move around the city. He just knows what's in each building and who's in it.
Sure. And the way Greg Capullo like draws like architecture in this book is very good too.
Yeah. He I don't know. He's got like a style to him. His faces are real like flat and just really sort of exaggerated.
Yeah, his figures are interesting as well.
Yeah, they got like wacky arms and hands and stuff, but
Sure.
but they always have expressions that you would say would fit.
Yeah.
So like sometimes when you're reading a comic, you see just who jumps at Greg Land or something.
Sure.
Like they have expressions on the page that don't match the page
or match the dialogue.
Yeah, and it's kind of weird. Like you see people screaming and they're not really saying anything, or you see them not screaming when they should be, and it's like, I don't know. Sometimes expressions don't match, and it just immediately pulls you out of the story.
Sure.
But Greg Capullo does a really good job of, I think, matching the pacing of the story, and then also matching like how you would react.
Right.
Like if someone was pulling you out of a car that you're going 80 miles an hour, I mean, what would your face look like?
And fun tidbit, Greg Capullo, as we keep talking about him, he was Todd McFarlane's artist on Spawn for a while. So that's what Greg Capullo's claim to fame was, that he drew Spawn.
That's where he gets a lot of his scratchy and super line work, like super.
So I always find that interesting. Like I don't claim to be an expert of Spawn quite yet. Maybe someday in the future I'll read some more Spawn, but his art is always between him and McFarlane. They always complement each other very well. And so just to see like take that and apply it to like a Batman arc, spot on.
Yeah, and like the way that they just break apart the panels, and Batman gets his fair share of like uh, epic moments. They still keep Batman as very much a technology based guy, but then also still a scary guy. Like, they didn't pull him out to look campy or anything.
Oh yeah, and this run is it's still very serious. It's not campy at all.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm glad that the New 52 kind of held him to his roots that way.
Sure.
His new roots, I suppose. So as the story goes on, Batman is starting to realize that there is a murder that he has to figure out, and it also connects to Dick Grayson, and then it connects to his other friend.
Lincoln March.
The
up and coming cool politician.
Yeah, he's always
the good guy. He's like, I'm here for you, bro.
He like looks like Bruce Wayne. I mean, they did that on purpose, but it's funny. It's like his dual side.
Yes.
And then they put the story right back into Wayne Tower, and all of a sudden you see the assassin arrive.
It's the Talon.
The one who said, "I'm going to kill Bruce Wayne." He's there.
Throw him out of the building.
Yeah. But the cool part is Bruce Wayne is fighting him, but like his friend Lincoln is still there, so he's kind of trying to
hold back. Bruce Wayne's trying to hold back.
Yeah, fight him, but not
give away, because he doesn't want to give away his secret identity. Still playing on that trope.
So he says, just me and him, but still, I have to be careful. I have to restrain myself. Never know who's watching.
Right.
Go for strikes that look like lucky blows. Solar plexus, mandibular nerve. All right. Play
very strategic.
Yeah. He's just like, I want to look like, oh, I didn't mean to, hit you so hard, but I did.
Right.
And he's always thinking. He was always strategizing. That's what Bruce Wayne and Batman are. They're always thinking about every possible angle here.
Sure. And as he gets kicked out of the building, he survives some miraculously. I think he gets on the train or something, and then he rides out. Things like that happen.
And then Talon says two important things.
Yep.
He says, the Court of Owls has sentenced you to die. And then he says, how I love killing Waynes. And he's like, what?
Right.
Who are the Court of Owls?
Sure. And it was really cool how he built this cool this rhyme for the Court of Owls too. And it goes something like this. Beware the Court of Owls, the watches all the time, ruling Gotham from a shadow perch, behind granite and lime. They watch you at your hearth. They watch you in your house, or they watch you in your bed, and speak not a whisper word of them, or they'll send the Talon for your head. So that's a very cool, cool story element that you're like, oh, that's really thought out.
Well, and,
it's creepy too.
I really like too that Batman was like, who are the Court of Owls? I know everything.
Right.
He gets really mad about that.
Yeah. And he's like, I've known every inch of the city. This is just a legend, a fairy tale. And, you chalk that up to Batman's knowledge, and he doesn't really do that for a lot of things except magic.
He's like, there's no way there's something in this city that I don't know about.
Yeah.
And then he says, but I'm the only legend this city needs. So, they're really building him up to be just immediately offended by the idea of some secret organization that he doesn't know about.
Right. He's talking to Nightwing about it. He's like, oh, I'm so mad that this happened. It's fake. Somebody's just posing the legend and trying to be a big poser and just trying to outwit me. He doesn't take any of that.
Yeah. So he decides, of course, anytime Batman wants to hear or figure something out, anytime he wants to do some research, he just goes and starts beating up just everybody. And so they always show him just going around Gotham, just stopping at every weird dive bar and every weird mafioso house, and he just starts roughing everyone up. And that's his way of learning the truth.
Yeah, getting to be, literally, gotta get the heart of it.
Sure, some people are like, oh man, Batman's here.
Right. And then we flash back which I really do appreciate when they do this, because if you're talking about Gotham in the past, you really have to show what those characters could have looked like and some of the relatives of the Waynes and stuff. And so one of them was Alan Wayne. And so that was really cool to see that. Kind of what Gotham looked like back then. It was like, I want to say the 1800s is when that took place.
Well, that's
1800s or no, it was early 1900s.
Or
like
1922.
1922.
Okay,
there you go.
Fair enough.
I got there.
Great Depression kind of time.
Yeah. Things are very scarce. So then you could actually believe that some of these cult figures and things like that could have developed way back then. Makes it more believable. And very like eerie and creepy too. Like the cult. Batman
yeah.
Cult.
Well, and they really start establishing Alfred as his confidant, of course.
Yep.
And just kind of keeping with all of the usual Batman stuff. What I really, really also enjoyed was Batman is doing like legit detective work. He's roughing up people, but he's also going back to the Bat Cave, and he's got the microscope going, and he's got
that was another big thing was the
all
technology that he upgraded. So he kind of, I don't know if they took that from Iron Man and just DC'd it up for Batman, but he has that computer like system that's integrated into his head.
Oh yeah, like the HUD or something.
Yeah, so he can like have basically instant access to the Batcave's computer on like a mobile version of it, and he just has to put like a piece in his cowl. Yeah, that's where it is. So they kind of revised that, which was really cool to see. And it was like looking back, I'm like, is that Iron Man's thing? Who stole from who? I don't know.
Well, let's see. This was 10 years ago. When did Iron Man come out?
So, well, I mean, like Extremis was going on at the time. True. So it was around that era. So it would have been interesting to see.
Yeah, they're all upgrading their tech.
Yeah, they got to be the next genius.
So Batman figures out that if there is a secret society of owls, and then he's like, how did he get into that tower without me knowing, or how did he get into the tower so fast? So he started looking at like blueprints and he started doing some research on that.
This was so cool.
Yeah, and then he finds out that the superstitious, and this actually, I mean, people do this nowadays, but the superstition is the 13th floor of any building is bad news.
Right.
So
it's not even on. It's on a blueprint, but it's not not found in.
And like they don't put it on the elevator, and you can't stop there, and it's like they just really ignore it. So then Batman was looking at all of the buildings that like his ancestors had made, and realized that the 13th floor of every single building is not on like a rentable chart or something like that.
It really built in this false sense of security for Batman, and then to like pull the floor or pull the rug underneath him really transforms his thinking. He's like, he gets all paranoid. It's like, what the heck?
So he's like, well, I'm gonna check this out. So he goes to one of the towers, and he like cuts through one of the floors, and then finds this owl nest
hideout. Yeah, the
assassins. What do they call it? Like assassins. Yeah, owl nest, as they call it.
Yeah.
And he just finds all of the tools and workout equipment and like weapons and little sleeping areas
all the
for
symbols of the owls.
What they call the talons.
Yeah, the talons. And then you find this picture, and he does really, Greg Capullo does a really good job of like going in close and developing this feels pictures from June 1891. You're like, yes.
Yeah, he's like, are you serious? And then he keeps going through all the buildings, and he finally finds one that's pretty
legit,
modern. Yeah. And then there's a picture on the wall with one of the talons and a bunch of Court of Owl people.
Yeah, from 2006. Yeah,
June 2006. So now he's like, okay, this is very recent, And if since this comic came out in 2011, showing a picture from 2006. Puts you right with it, right on it.
Absolutely. And then the building explodes.
Get
rid of the evidence, because the owls are always watching. So they knew he was coming. They figured, they have him set a trap for Batman, and just to take him out, they explode. It's like, okay. And then you're like, does he survive?
Yeah, and the owl costumes, since he's been kind of looking at those and seeing pictures and things, the owl costume is pretty cool too, because the talons, like they've got their like weird perfectly circular goggles.
Oh, right.
So they kind of look like
Yeah, for the
owls
talons.
because they're just like the right owl eye.
And it's exactly the polar opposite of Batman's costume too.
Yeah, that's
but
true.
it also complements it as well because they're both birds of prey, and it's like, okay, but how can we make this more just as menacing as Batman, or even more, but have that assassin feel?
And you get all that action from Capullo's artwork, and you get the color. I mean, just the coloring and the changes of the colors that follow along with the story. I mean, it's as the story progresses, even you start looking at it like, well, how is this? I mean, when this came out, everyone knew Batman had all the answers. So then when this came out that he didn't, that was kind of a big jump. That was cool for people to see that Batman wasn't totally flawless.
Exactly. And then you start to see Batman's mindset just change.
Yeah.
He goes from this really thoughtful detective to being this, I thought I knew everything, and then the self-doubt just over the course of the arc just starts to weave in and out. And that was really cool how they built that. Yeah.
Yeah, very subtle. That he's like, if they're watching me, how can they possibly, and then the Talons kind of like sneak up on him and stuff. I mean, things like that you wouldn't imagine would happen to Batman. He does, and then he gets captured. You know? So it's like, man. And he gets captured for a long, like weeks.
Yeah, I think, it was weeks, or it was close to a month or something like that.
Just really kind of cool to take him totally out of it
by surprise, and put him in a situation he couldn't fight his way out quite yet. He had to very much come to grips with his reality, face the truth, and try to take justice in a different way, and just kind of fight back somehow.
Yeah, I mean, you really see him totally break down to like just basic madness, and Batman's done that in the past. They've had some really great runs in the 70s and 80s where Batman has, decided that part of his training is him just going into the depths of insanity, just like his villains. There's like the Arkham Asylum runs. And there's Batman. What is it called? Batman. It's not like Batman Poison, but it's where he takes Bane.
Oh, Venom.
Yeah, Batman Venom. He takes Bane's venom.
Oh, geez.
And gets like addicted to it and gets like wacky and crazy. So
that'd be cool.
I mean, there's lots of parts of Batman's story through the last, 70 years.
Right.
But this was kind of neat for, again, all the new readers, people who knew Batman from the movies and knew Batman as just sort of the collected guy, the calm, collected, problem solver. You start seeing over the next, 20 pages or so, it's just, he like descends into madness because he's trapped by the owls in this giant maze underground, and it doesn't look like there's really any escape.
Yeah. And his descent into madness is drawn so good. Like just to see the progression happen, and then just the look of fear on Batman's face. Like you don't get to see that every day or in a lot of comics. So it's like when you see it happen and just that decay, it's just like, it's so cool to see that. It's very challenging as well. So,
well, and another cool part. So like when you're reading through him just day after day being trapped and he can't find his way out of this maze.
He drinks the heroin water.
he's totally like lost. The pages start going from, top to bottom to then they go left to right, like the pages turn,
which also like shows his mindset,
and you're like so you have to turn the whole book to read, because now it's landscape, and then the pages literally go upside down.
Right. What do you think of that layout style?
I love that when they do crazy stuff like that.
Sure.
I mean, why not?
Change up the paneling, change up the format.
Well, if you're forcing someone to literally spin the whole book that they're reading, like if you were reading an actual novel, and then someone was just going totally mad and you had to spin the novel and read the words around the page, I mean, that would really put you right in it.
Absolutely.
I think that was a great touch, and I think that was definitely a Scott Snyder being like, we have to do it
Let's
this way.
Let's make it weird.
Yeah, like we have to do it this way. And, now it's a collected hardcover edition, but, if you imagine reading the regular comic
All the
singles,
singles,
then
yeah.
you're kind of like turning the whole comic book in your hands. That's cool. Totally cool.
Right. And all the close-ups of just Batman, like he starts like graying up a bit. His teeth start getting weird. His eyes are bloodshot from all the drugs that were in the water he had to drink. It's the coolest touch.
They're just crazy torturing him. And then it comes back to Gotham, and Jim Gordon and everyone has left the bat signal on for weeks and weeks and weeks, and it eventually just burns out, just melts.
Right.
And you kind of get to see Robin or Damian, and
Mm-hmm.
Damian's Batman's son, but he's also Robin at the time, and you can see he's just desperate to call Batman. He just wants him to arrive.
Right. He's looking for his father.
Yeah.
They're looking for the protector of the city. Because again, going back to how Scott Snyder introduced this arc, what is Gotham? Is Gotham Batman or is it something else?
And if they're just all just like, we need him back, you kind of get the idea that the city really, really, really does need him.
Sure. And the other thing that when he was going to St. Mandus, he couldn't rely on any of his technology. He only had his wits about him. And that was cool how they played at that.
Oh, yeah.
Well.
They took his belt.
Yeah. They took all his technology, all his belts. So literally, it's just him and his mind and his detective work.
That's always the thing, too. You're like, oh, they took his belt. Like, it's going to get real now. That happens all the time. I was like, oh boy, here we go.
Right.
I just got to figure this out. And, as the story progresses, we don't want to like give all the spoilers away, but, the catalyst is that he does escape the owls, but he is also like humbled to the point that they captured him, and like they drove him mad, and he got his wits together long enough to be like, I'm coming back for all of you. And like,
sure.
He made a promise, but he got out. And it had like a whole wall of hundreds of people who never made it out. So it's like,
he didn't want to be that. And he recognized certain relatives. And
he recognized Wayne.
Yeah. And then Pennyworth and some of Robin's family was part of it too. And that's a whole nother layer of the story that was really well done as well.
Yeah.
All the interwoven connectivity and mythos and legends of like Gotham was really cool to explore that too.
Well, so the owls kind of focus on the strongest of the community.
Yeah. And then they go into that part.
Yeah. And Batman focuses on the strongest of the community. So, for Batman to have Dick Grayson, it wasn't that far of a stretch for the Court of Owls to say, we want Dick Grayson as one of our talons. Yeah. And that was always, a thing where like, if Batman is recruiting the best of the best, well, this group was also trying to do that,
Absolutely.
But it kind of wraps up with
putting the call.
Yeah, putting the call out. So Batman it was like all he could do to fight one of these assassins.
Yep.
And then you find out that there's many, many, many of them. Yeah.
And that when Batman escapes, the Court of Owls puts out this big hit on all the city and all the prominent figures. And so they have like an army of talons. So if Batman just had a tough time fighting one, it takes a village to fight these guys.
And that's when it starts the Night of the Owls. So like the Court of the Owls kind of introduced them as a multi-layered villain,
Yeah.
And then the Night of the Owls kind of starts.
Or as the second volume is called The City of Owls too.
Yeah, that's true. The Rick.
Mm-hmm. So that was really cool. And then depending if you start with the crossovers or if you read it, keep in line with what we're reading, you get to see where all of the Bat family comes in and helps Bruce out and gets him back on his feet. Even Alfred helps Bruce just kind of get back with some confidence again, because he has so much self-doubt going into this. He's kind of lost all hope. So it takes a bit of him to get his muscle memory back and get his what's about.
Yeah. And, I looking back on the whole story too, I like the idea that, Batman didn't just, he wasn't just like
fighting his way out,
physically defeated, like there wasn't like a new villain that showed up and then just like beat him up. And then Batman's like, oh, I can't do this. They really kind of slowly built and created a scenario where Batman will lose that part of him that's that's his will, you know.
And he
And
has
if,
to rediscover that.
yeah, and if you can really break down Batman's
Psyche.
desire to be
Yeah.
Batman, you know, I
Right.
guess that's that's really what you have to fight, because you know, physically, he's such a, you know, demanding fighter and such a good intellect, and he's just got lots of, you know, gadgets. But when you strip that all the way down, if you can take that away from him, then that's where you, I think you really beat him.
Like you said earlier, it definitely humbles him and makes him seem more human.
Yeah. And he's still, you know, kind of like figures out like, well, I don't want to kill people. So he's trying to sort of incapacitate them. But, you know, the Owls put that call out to all of the Talons to just go kill pretty much every prominent figure in Gotham. And the funny thing is that the Owls show up at the house of Bruce Wayne. So they're like, well, we're going to go kill Bruce Wayne. Well, as all the comic fans know, you don't show up at the house of Wayne when Batman is home.
Sure. And they're definitely hitting him at his weakest when he's at his home. And, you know, they're trying to catch him off guard. And they start to do that. But at the same time, he just gets pissed. He's like, screw that. Alfred breaks him out. He's like, come on.
So, you know, you see that there's, you just when you think, and I think that's one of the biggest parts of Batman too, is just when you think Batman's beat, of course he's got another trick, and then he's got another trick, and he's got another plan,
a contingency of his time.
Yeah, it's just what he does. It's like Batman. That you've always heard that saying that Batman can defeat anything with enough prep. You know, give Batman the prep work. And
just watch him stop the Justice League. I mean, he's got a plan for all that too.
Give him the prep work, he'll figure it out.
Sure. And then you see, like, later on, he, like we talked about Iron Man earlier, he comes with his own Batman armor. Yeah. Yeah, and I'm like, that's really cool.
I mean, once they start assaulting the Bat Cave, really, really, really great story
and the
work.
art kind of adjusts a bit and comes back. I think another artist came in and kind of helped, like, divvy up a bit of those issues and make them feel different.
Yeah, I always get that idea once they actually start, and then once a series kind of ramps up, sometimes they do ask other artists to jump in and try to at least ink it, or, you know, get the pages laid out.
Right. Yeah, I think it was a different inker that came in. Yeah.
And for the Absolute, though, you know, once the story starts wrapping up at the end, it goes through all of the 11 issues. And then still at that time, I'm just not looking at there's additional stories in the back. There's 2 additional stories in the Absolute, but they're somewhat related to the Court of Owls. You know, what they did was, I wonder if Scott Snyder, I don't know, we were just talking, Scott Snyder might have some sort of a little bit of a curse. And his curse is he comes up with great stories and great villains. But then I think DC Comics is like, whoa. Let's not end that there. You know, let's keep going with that story. And it's like, what? So the Court of Owls may have just been the beginning of Scott Snyder's run, and be like, hey, I'm going to introduce Court of Owls, and then we'll go tell a different story, right?
Right.
But then DC Comics was like, whoa. Let's put it in Robin, and let's put it in Batgirl, and let's put it in the other, and then let's bring it back over here and put it in the Catwoman.
A bit more.
Yeah, they just wanted to milk it a little bit more. So some of these extra stories are just.
And I definitely think, you know, once you introduce that level and concepts of the legends of Gotham and build that up more, you want to definitely know more, like what happened.
Yeah.
And the different time periods that they describe that they've been throughout.
It is a story they can keep telling.
Right.
I mean, there was no.
One of the more significant crossovers, I think it was cool, or at least deep flashbacks, was Alfred's great grandfather.
Yeah.
I think it was his grandfather or something at the time. And he helps kind of discover who were the Court of Owls. Like, he found them, he discovered them, and they were trying to always on the tail end of Thomas and Martha Wayne, and he knew them, and he just scares the crap out of him. And that like stirs him into madness and craze and things like that. But he's like, I gotta protect myself. I have to protect the Wayne family. I have to make sure, you know, there's a legacy. And the Court of Owls is always very good at covering their tracks and keeping it hidden for so long until the right moment.
Well, and then they decide
That was my favorite one. Yeah.
Yeah, they decided, well, now we got to get this out. And Red Hood is in here and everyone. I mean, it's
Your favorite.
It's a really good story. If you're a Batman fan, I think you'd love reading it because it's just a great new, like a new vision, but still kept a lot of the old feel.
Absolutely.
And even though they kind of decided New 52 wasn't the way for DC Comics to go, and they've kind of reset it again, the stories, for the most part, are still fun to kind of read and just realize it's sort of an alternate timeline kind of thing. But
sure.
But Batman, I don't know. It's like they do an alternate timeline, but they don't change him too much. So then they're always like, no, Batman's just forever.
Right. And some of these plot lines and stories, concepts, they kept continuing after these 2 volumes, like we were talking about.
Yeah, like they just brought it back into the next world that they're going with.
Yeah, when they did Rebirth, they're like, oh, but some of this happened. That was an hour.
They can't ever totally reset Batman.
Exactly.
He's just as iconic as Superman and Wonder Woman and everything else.
So Scott Snyder went on to do 10 volumes of Batman. And then he did Batman Eternal.
Yes.
And then he's still developing his world of Batman, things like that. And then Tom King took over. He did that for a while, and a long while. That was the next writer. But then Snyder comes up with this event called Dark Knight's Metal. And that's a whole nother story.
Yeah.
For a rainy day special.
That one you do need to know your history on.
Yes. And what Snyder did, what he wrote, things like that. But it's a great payoff to it, I guess.
Yeah.
And
it's when they let a writer just get free reign, just tell the stories you want to tell. And I don't fault, there's always the argument, who's most popular, who's most productive, who's most, is it Image, DC, Top Cow, Marvel. I think DC, they just tell the stories they want to tell. And they're like, you know what? Sometimes they work and sometimes they don't, but we want to at least get this out and, give them credit for that.
Right. They're always willing to
They have characters that aren't going to just go away. So, I mean, I don't know if Batman will ever lose popularity, but in the meantime, they can experiment with him as much as they want, and I'm sure readers will say, as long as you don't totally ruin the character, like, I mean, you can't have Batman without his parents being killed.
Yeah,
it's like, so don't it's
called Elseworld.
Yeah, don't totally erase everything, but at the same time, we want to see new Batman stories that are fun.
Absolutely. And what's cool is recently, in the past couple days of this recording, Robert Pattinson said it would be cool when him and Matt Reeves hopefully will do another movie. They go into this universe of the Court of Owls.
Yeah, I saw that. That'd be awesome.
So I'll be like, oh, that's the book.
So that just shows how popular it is. If they did a Court of Owls movie, I mean, if
we see Easter eggs at the end of the movie, I'm going to call it here.
Yes, we said it first, right?
But what did you think of this run?
I think the Court of Owls is up there with some of probably the top 10 Batman runs. It's a really well wrapped up story if you just read the Court of Owls.
Yeah,
and you
very self-contained.
Yeah,
but
you just take it as it is.
Room and
it's just like Batman's past stories with Ra's al Ghul, or even Batman's continuing stories with looking at like a
Joker run,
or like the death of the family. A lot of that is just, those are what makes Batman Batman. And I think the Court of Owls just shows that as much as it's his city, that there's always the possibility that it's not. And I think once you put that out
that's
there,
very cryptic.
Yeah. I mean, you can't just you
can't own the city, Bruce.
You can't set this up like a never. Just like saying Superman will never whatever.
Yeah.
They always break the rule for
Challenge
Superman.
accepted.
Yeah. So, Batman's still just a man, and he's still trying to do the best he can in the city. But Gotham is a magnet for just everything terrible out there, and. That's not saying Batman knows all of it, but when it shows up, Batman's there.
Dun, dun,
dun,
dun, dun.
He's there. He's my guy.
All right. And this is our review of Batman Court of Owls. This is Andrew Glonner.
And Chris Ramos.
Signing off.